about our culture, and I'm super supportive of where we come from. Talk a little bit in space. My man Hefe, what's good with you, boy? It's been forever since I seen you. It's good seeing your face, bro. Um, but no, let's loosen up. Anything top of mind for you guys? I could start talking about a lot of personal stuff, but I don't want y'all to get me on the couch this early. Um, but something that I want to talk about is without being attacked or being super gossipy, right? Um, with everything that's happening with Kanye right now, right? And we talk about our culture, and I'm super supportive of where we come from, and I try to give everyone grace, and I try to give grace, especially in the space of mental health, right? And I'm super conscious of tearing down other other black and brown folks, but sometimes you just got to have honest conversation, right? And it's something for me that I'm even asking myself, at what point, what does support look like from a mental health perspective, and then what does protection look like from a cultural perspective, right? Because at some point you can only allow for so many things to be said before you need to respond. So we'll talk about that, right? And I think that as it relates to a Jewish friend of mine's, Ari, it's my guy. Um, I'm not an envious person, but I love the way the Jewish community stands up for each other. It's something that I've always seen, and like from up close and from a distance. Um, in the way they've stood up um, to some of the things that's been said about Jewish folks, and I think that the juxtaposition between Jewish folks, Jewish community, and how they're unified. And it's not a versus thing, right? But it's just honest conversations, and then I guess as that connects back to politics and less about choices. I'm not here to say vote for this person or vote for that person, but more just about just how we feel going into this cycle. What does it mean to us? Do any of y'all even thinking about inflation? Do y'all even know what the fuck that means? Right? Like I'm infatuated with it, right? But that's a whole nother conversation. But those are all the things that's top of mind. That's probably been rambling off of my mind for the last couple of weeks before I see you guys. How are we looking on screen for questions? Mark, is Mark live up there? No, we can start in. Uh we good? We go. Okay. Anybody got anything for me, or I could just keep blurbing, but I want to have a conversation. I don't want to speak. Go for it. Hold on.
I'm Dewan Parker. Live in Atlanta from South Jersey, Camden. And I actually just built um, something like Farfetch, but only luxury footwear. And one thing I'm running into is getting into the luxury footwear world. Not, I don't, my platform marketplace, it doesn't hold stock. Like it's in a sense mirror as a Farfetch, holds no stock. So I need boutiques. And what I'm running into is I'm finding that a lot of these boutiques, high-end boutiques, that's, Visvim, so Golden Goose, so on and so forth, they're owned by older white women. And I was shocked when I seen that. And we've been, myself, been trying to knock on that door. And I know you have in Atlanta there 3 or 4 boutiques that have high-end footwear in them. And my question to you is, number one, how did you break into that luxury footwear market? And also, I know that you guys are on Farfetch as well. How how can you how can I get you off of Farfetch?
So let's back up. I'll go to the I'll go to the first one's more complicated, right? Because the idea of far-fetched in and of itself is a bit well, it's the easy answer. For us, damn, I'm gonna say something disparaging about far-fetched. It's cleanup, right? Like for us, far-fetched is about aged inventory. Sorry, far-fetched. It's about aged inventory, right? And for us, it's a way to process our aging. And we talk about inflation right now, right? And I think if you look to, you're watching, listening to annual quarterly reports across all the retailers just reporting, everybody's reporting heavy on-hand inventory, right? The everybody was nervous with the pandemic, and then online shopping went crazy. Free money came in the system. It was party, 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 PPP. Fucking, I ain't never going back to work again. This is crazy. And then all of a sudden, it's like, so for us, far-fetched is a cleaning mechanism, right? Um, so that's the back half, the front half first. When you start talking about any luxury relationship, uh, think of it like dating, but dating a girl who thinks you're cool, a girl that friend zones you. She friend zones you, and you got to work yourself out of the friend zone. And two, like to, oh, he's interesting. Oh, and two, like, oh, I think he's kind of cute. Oh, and two, I think, oh, I want to go out with him. Like that, like it's literally the process of it. It's probably the best analogy I can use because it requires a lot of patience, constant follow-up, rejection. I think a lot of people necessarily don't understand rejection in this industry. Uh, we've been talking to some brands for what up? We've been talking to some brands for shit 10 years, right? So it's a process. Man Year didn't happen in a day. Man Year happened because 5 years of Flavor Factory, 4 years of Social Status, tons and tons and tons and tons of relationships, and a lot of equity and timing. Like at the time we done Man Year, uh, think about, don't laugh at me. Everybody remembers Pyrex, right? Remember how Pyrex went out? Pyrex got cease and desist. So a brand that everybody holds like in such high regard got cease and desist, and then Off-White happened. So at the time when Off-White and Pyrex was happening, like Amamier, RSVP, those places were just coming to life, right? So the idea of selling luxury to boutiques in 2011, 2012 was like laughable. The parties in Paris in 2012 looked very different than the parties in Paris in 2020 because everybody in Paris that was from the States was in one place. I think it was, might have been Titty Twisters. I think Cav might have left, so he can't keep me accountable, but it was literally one place because it was one place that had music. It was like there was no real acceptance for what we do. So I give you that big long speech to tell you, like, be patient, take your time, build relationships, and you have to prove you can move through inventory, right? For us, Farfetch is just about moving older units. So, and I'll say a different word to you, jobbing. Right now, Ross is important, TJ Maxx is important. All those places are important because all this old inventory has to go somewhere to live, right? So I think you also need to look at the outside environment and ask yourself what service you're offering and why, and why should the girl who friend zones you take a risk on you? What makes you different than the other? What makes you different than the other person that broke her heart, right? So you gotta now earn the trust, be consistent, prove in a relationship. You shouldn't have to prove your value, but in a business relationship, you absolutely need to prove your value, right? So starting the burden's on you. Does that make sense? So proof of concept is incredibly important. Does that make sense?
Definitely, because so I launched March for in the first quarter next year. And the thing that I see for me, it's not the conversation when I get in front of the person, is being able to get in front of the person. Because I know she can be an old white lady, she can be whoever, but once I get in front of them, I feel like I can speak on the back end inventory and other services that we do offer, just like a Farfetch.
So Sanir, and keep me honest on questions. If hands is up, yo, on the screen, is we good? We're good on the screen questions.
Yeah, Jay, can you hear me
I'm just
now?
pausing for 1 second. Everybody, we just getting through the session, but if you got questions on screen, just please raise your hand. Mark will get you, or I'll get you. But we'll go back and forth. We'll go back and forth live and on screen.
Jay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Mark, what's up?
Hey, sorry, you couldn't hear me earlier. So actually, because we got a bunch of people coming in and being racist in the comments and the chats, I just killed the chat. So we're going to lead with questions from space. And if you have a question and you're watching, please send that to me directly. You may be able to see me on the chat, but we're not going to have
Mark, don't let them piss you off. I can hear you. I can hear you annoyed. don't let the racist comments annoy you, man.
Yeah, but we can't create, this is a safe space for people. So let's lead with questions in space and we'll get back to it in a little bit. But just let's lead with questions in space for now.
No, all good, all good. What I'll say to you and then move over to another question is to get people's attention. What did I compare it to? Getting out the friend zone. How do you get out the friend zone? You got to get creative. If the girl, if you say the line to the girl that she heard already, you got to get creative. If I was you and I was trying to get an old woman's attention, I would be on her sales floor. All right, Lee, where's Lee? I seen him walk in. Lee, where you at? When they was young, and that shows my age. Him, Samir, they used to come. Hefe, like they used to just come and be on the sales floor. They weren't employed. They just was there. They knew the stock room. They knew the customers. They knew to buy. They was answering questions. We was arguing about what's this and what's that. Best music, best that. The only way to build relationships is to actually truly do the work and build relationships. Like the best part about we're entering into a recession. We're in these inflationary times. The best part about these times is this is when people are most open-minded, because when things are down, people are open to try new things. So again, I think your timing, March 1st couldn't be better. If anything, I would say hurry up. Yes. What I would say is you got to get a digital to physical experience. You got to get in person. But thank you for the question. Okay. Okay. Did I speak good? I'm sorry. I don't want no trouble. Mark, what we got over there? Mark,
I've asked for questions to be sent. I've asked for questions.
What's wrong?
So, I've asked for questions to be sent, but I think I wanted to lead with a question I had because we were talking about something the other day, and you talked about the current climate we find ourselves, like socioeconomically, and how that's going to put pressure on our industry, particularly to serve differently. Do you want to expand on that a little bit? Like you have a bit of a vision on the horizon.
Yeah,
what is our responsibility going into it?
Yeah, I definitely could talk about it some, because I think this is where, like the last 3 years, shout out to our team, right? But Cav, who operates like the business part, Tanisha, who operates retail, they're really good. I could talk about different people from our team. When I don't say names, don't think that I don't love you, because I love our whole team, all 250, 60 of us. But times like this is when it gets interesting, right? Because we got inflation. We ain't had inflation since I've been living, right? So this is just something that doesn't happen. And we're in a place where there's tons of excess inventory in the marketplace. And we're actually in a place also where the consumer is a bit stagnant, right? I see Hefe wearing the Kango. He went back to just original OG shit. I've always said, anytime the market starts to cool, you see people going back to classics. You see jeans become more important. You see track become more important. You see all the brands that never gave up on their integrity. Those brands are go-tos, right? People know they can go to classic things. and they become the things that people hold on until you get the bang. And that's what made me speak about Kanye some, right? Because if you go back to '08, right, now you're talking about, was it Yeezy 1 was in, what year was that? Somebody keep me honest. '08, '09. It's Yeezy 1, right? So the last time we seen a downturn, out of that downturn, he got Yeezys, right? So it's interesting the opportunity that this brings, because for me, it's like one part of it is I got to start thinking about our business, and I got to be hypersensitive to the things that our team hasn't seen before, right? Dramatic price changing, logistics changes, orders come in 30 days late, consumers screaming at us talking about, why ain't you ship? Because the product said it landed, but it actually didn't. What was in that box, or was supposed to be in that box, isn't what they said was in that box. We're sorry, but I can't put that in the email, right? Like there's just tons of challenges that you have to just deal with live, right? And it makes working, some people would say stressful, but for me, it makes it worth waking up again, right? Like, because now today I'm going to be met with a different scenario than what I was yesterday. When a market's going fine, I pretty much know how my day is going, right? It's meeting after meeting after meeting, opportunity or no opportunity, but you're kind of just chasing. But in these kind of environments, the market is pushing you, because the circumstances and the new things show themselves every day, and you have to address them, and you have to be able to critically think on the spot. And you got to make sure that 3 levels down in your team, that they understand to pause and communicate when the trailer shows up and it's supposed to be Air Force Ones, and it's actually something that's not Air Force Ones, right? Mark, did I expand, or should I go into inflation? I don't want to put nobody to sleep. You know how I get.
Please dig deeper, because I think there's a lot of questions with that. So I think that will help a lot.
And put me in a direction, so I don't just go off rambling.
So obviously everyone's reading the headlines and talking about inflation, how the marketplace is changing. What are those 3 key factors that this audience, one, would see in how they feel, and what's the long-term effects that we're going to be sort of having?
Well, twofold. Everybody understands what inflation means, and no one will say if they don't. Inflation means the cost of borrowing money. Well, not inflation. Inflation is the rate in which prices increase, is the easiest way. So this water today costs $1. If there's 2% annual inflation, right? Assume that's what we always want to assume, 2%, right? I think we're at like 8 right now. So if we keep burning at 8%, this water is going to go up down there 10% a year. So bottled water very quickly, and all of the pieces and parts of the bottled water, the cap, the plastic, the paper, the shipping, if all those things start going up and start to get a multiplying effect, this bottle of water can go from $1 today to, what the Fed doesn't want to happen is this bottle of water to be $1 today, and then 2 months from now, $2, and then 6 months, $3, and then 4 months, $2 again, right? Because that starts to make the world uneasy, right? We're trained to believe that the price of things, the price of eggs, the price of milk, the price of bread, the basic human necessities should be at a baseline at all times, right? When inflation starts to go wild, that means pricing across the board starts to go wild. That's one piece, right? So you don't want, there's the t-shirt you love that's $9.99. If them t-shirts start costing $39.99, and you're still making the same money that you were making when the t-shirts were $9.99, that's a fucking problem, right? That's one piece. The other piece is all of y'all got credit cards, even if you don't have credit card debt, right? The credit card is connected to base interest, prime, right? And now I'm getting all fancy, but I'm channeling my internal college right now. What happens when inflation goes up? The Fed is pushing rates up. So what the Fed is saying, hey, you went to get that new car last year on that car because you got an 800 credit score, they can give you a rate of 3%, 3.5%. Today, rates are double, right? So that 3.5% is 6.5%. And what the Fed is saying, like, hey guys, when a consumer confidence or consumer numbers or inflation numbers comes in and the jobs numbers come in, and you read the ticker that says job numbers comes in, Fed pissed, will increase rates, right? Consumer confidence is roaring, Fed upset. Fed upset is because when the Fed pushes rates up, it's supposed to make y'all stop spending. What's happening now is the Fed is pushing rates up. Y'all still out there. Yeah. Like spending hasn't shifted much, right? So what's happening is the Fed is going to continue to push rates up until we slow down as the country, right? Because then it starts to bring things down. And he's doing that because, yeah, somebody in the room is saying that's fucked up because it's going to cause a recession, right? But a recession is actually better than this going to 2.7 to then to 4 and back to 11. Just for a case study, like read what's happening in Argentina right now. And it's an extreme case. This is a super extreme case. The US is the strongest economy in the world because we're supposed to have the most disciplined Fed. I'm rambling now, but Mark, you got me rambling. Did anybody see UK Prime Minister resign today? Right? The craziness in that is last week or 2 weeks or whatever she came on, the first thing she did in this inflationary times that we in, she come in and say, fuck that, we doing a tax cut. Yo, how you going to save tax money in this inflation, yo? You're going to cause more inflation. So for the first time in a long time, the pound dropped, right? Because as our Fed becomes more disciplined, it increases our rates. What it does is strengthen the dollar around the globe, right? And it makes doing business with America more expensive. But it makes doing business for Americans outside of the country a little less expensive, right? So let me go to some tactical things because I said a whole bunch of shit. So inflation means it costs a lot more to borrow. Having inflation running wild means that it throws prices across the board, right? And things that we like and need, like bread, water, have. Shit, I went to Chick-fil-A and my meal was $10. When does that ever happen, right? The Chick-fil-A meal is not supposed to be $10. Chick-fil-A meal is like $7 and change, right? But those are the things you're going to start to happen. Mark, did I get it all there?
You did. You did. That's good context. And we actually have a question up. So chat is back up. So please feel free to drop your questions in the chat. We have a question from Marquita Gleaton, and she did call out the foul behavior from the others before. Thank you for doing that, Marquita. But her main question is, and that goes back into a little bit what's coming up. Will we have any Zoom calls involving voting in the primaries? But more so building on that, any thoughts on the issues at hand and the importance of the midterms?
Now you want to get me going. It's tough because it's tough to pick a side right now, right? Because, wait, hold on, let me stop. Back the fuck up. It's not tough to pick a side because you live in principle, right? So living in principle, because politics have become divisive, we pick a side, right? It was Trump versus Biden, and we wasn't necessarily like, yeah, Biden's the guy, right? He got all the answers. What we was really saying is this motherfucker Trump is crazy. Get him out of here. Somebody take him outside and beat the fuck out of him. Sorry, Secret Service, if y'all coming to get me. But you know what I'm saying? That's what we were saying when I voted against divisiveness, right? I voted against him being polarizing to society and not being the best face of a global leader, right? But largely what's happened is we're in a place where we're still not seeing a lot of things shift, right? And not fast enough, right? So we start coming up on midterms and we got to make a decision. Everybody know what midterms are? If not, I'll quickly say midterms is when we vote in congressmen and women and senators, right? And nobody really pays attention to midterms and or local elections because you're thinking like, oh, the presidential election is all that matters. Like, no. What happens in the dark when most people weren't paying attention is if anybody understand what redlining is. If you don't know what redlining is basically when your state legislature and the state politicians start to change the zoning and start to redefine what zoning lines look like and who can vote where, right? So after we was like, yeah, we got Biden and we out, we're gonna go mountain done. What happens in the States is what they do is they start rezoning districts, right? So they can get more seats, right? And they can have more control in the House and the Senate, right? Because with that control, the president can't make no moves, right? The president is only as good as the House and the Senate. So he can you hear him talk about there's things that the president can do on his pad, right? And they can just say I could do this or that, but not much. President can't just change laws on his own or her own. It he has to bring the House, or she has to bring the House and Senate along. So right now, what we're doing is we're voting for the House and the Senate. Right now, Democrats have a slim majority, right, in Congress. And are we up or down in the Senate? I shouldn't say we, but I'm a Democrat, so you get we. But it's tight, right? And because of everything that is happening, we're in a place now where President Biden doesn't have the highest approval rate, right? So he can't go get out on the campaign trail and say ride with me, because we looking at him like, bro, we don't really know if we riding with you. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, we know we don't want DeSantis as the next president, right? Or no crazy ass person who want to put most black people back into slavery and put women back on wherever, right? Like take away women's rights. So we want to start to think about who we should represent and why, if that makes sense. And for me, right, it's an easy choice, but it's been difficult. It's always difficult for this group, like younger folks, to start to connect to midterms, because you just don't see usually the forest through the trees, right? Until the laws are getting changed, and you're like, damn, how did that law get changed? Or I give you a better one. How the fuck did Roe versus Wade get overturned? Somebody was sitting there like on that day, like, yo, how did this happen? It happened because they had a majority, they had Trump, and they ran the fucking table, right? It happened because when Obama was still in office and he could seat someone, they blocked him. What happened is if we have congressmen and women who don't have the heart to step up and make hard decisions and fight, then we end up in a place where the Supreme Court has a supermajority, and now it's a conservative supermajority, and they could fuck find the right case that says no, black women aren't allowed to walk into the front door. And you know what? If they tried in a conservative enough court that backdoors it, then next thing you know, they might try to fucking overturn Lord knows what. I'm being very extreme, right? But when you have a supermajority, shit gets very scary, right? And again, while we sleeping, state legislators, state politicians, can't say the fucking L word today, state politicians are redlining and they're setting up for the next election. So this election that we're in, where they saying go out and vote, like, yo, just take your internet scroll, and if you start putting candidates in, or just find a candidate. If you don't know a candidate, we're gonna start doing voting stuff. Marco, this is October, so shit, we like now, because elections are early voting is like today, like literally today. But between now and November 8th, get familiar with some local folks. And it's harder because it's tons. It's not the presidential campaign. You make one choice. It's this person or this person. In local elections, it's like 30 people to choose from, and you don't know who the 30 is. So sometimes you just vote blue or vote red, and sometimes there's multiple options. But what I would say is we got to get a bit more educated in the process, and that's where we're a bit more responsible, right? Like in it all, we're trying to figure out how to do more, right? To get to leverage our collective voices and figure out the angle that makes people pay attention. Mark, I'm gonna say this, and you're gonna be like, you shouldn't have said that. But the tough part is people don't always care about information, right? If I would have posted like, yo, everybody come in, we're leaking the 12s. Anybody who comes gets a picture, we'd have fucking 100,000 people jump on, and there'd be a billion people trying to get in the Zoom right now to get a shoe. But when we want to have a conversation about voting, it's a lot more difficult, right? So the balance for us is trying to figure out how to get people's attention and how to keep their attention and get them to do what's right for all of us. I'm gonna shut up because I was super long-winded. And I think we got Mark. We're gonna take a question here because I've seen a couple hands. I actually seen 3. I'll go first, and I'll come back there. Oh, Lee, they skipped you up. Yeah, where we going? There we go. I'll come back to the back.
Okay.
Or well, you the boss, whatever you say.
Well, we're gonna go from him and then you. Okay.
Go ahead, Lee.
So I came in like on the back tail end of the Kanye West situation, but what I wanted to ask is, with you having principles of you, how do you make a decision to say, hey, I'm going to let this live in my space here or put this on sale, and you kind of got this person who's in charge of this brand, like not knowing what's going to say. So do you feel like, do you feel responsible for representation here too? Not saying that we can't control that, you know what I'm saying? But is there a responsibility that you feel like saying, hey, I might have to slow down on this, even though sales may be here, or are you experiencing sale increase and you're making like a hard decision?
In what context? You mean in give me the front because your mind's going, and I want to make sure I'm catching what you're saying, so I don't just say a bunch of stuff that didn't answer your question.
So say for example, Yeezy dropped today. Knowing that I'm not sure if everybody's seen Drink Champs interview or anything like that. So some of the things people agree with, some people are like, yo, we're gonna be his ass when we see him. So how do you feel as to the people who would more so be offended? Do you feel like you're offending them by having that product in your space and still having to be for sale? Or do you feel like, hey, I might have to tell them like, yo, stop sending this shit for a while or something like that?
We already start having our conversation. We've been having our conversation for a while. And listen, I don't want to be on the top of hype beast tomorrow, like James said, fuck Kanye, right? Because I think he needs like there's some mental health things that, and like it's something that I don't play with, right? But we're responsible for our words. We're responsible for our words and how we digest them as a culture and who we are, and our purpose is clear, right? So like, yo, fucking right. That's something that we talked about, right? That's something that everybody on our team, everybody at different times have said something. I mean, this doesn't go back to right now. This is going all the way back to slavery as a choice. All those things is like, but we forgiven people. So Sunday service had me like, okay, give him another shot, right? And now we're at a place where, bro, don't, you know me well. So you know how I get, like, yo, like if we were to, I would have no issue dropping that business if it went against our principle, if that's the answer to your question. Any business. I'll give you a different one. We'll board this whole shit up and move on if this whole industry started going against our principles. Does that make sense? Like, it's just, and it's a privilege to be able to say that, right? But yeah, but I'm in a space, well, and obviously the other part is there's 260 people who we call a team, and then you got to go to the team and start having a conversation with them about how we gonna stand and what we gonna do, right? Because at the end of the day, they depend on us as well, right? As well as, so it's a balance, right? But me, James, right? We are who we are, and I stand on what I stand on, and ain't no money getting in the way of that, right? Actually, if I stand on what I stand on, I'd rather stand on what I stand on and make money with the people who stand how I stand. Does that make sense? So it was a leading question because I think you knew where I was going to go with it, but I appreciate you still asking it. Yeah. Yes. The money, listen, money's a byproduct. I posted something on Instagram. Again, the smart stuff people don't look at. But yo, purpose gets you bread. Like, money's a byproduct of grinding. My son's up there studying. I try to tell him all the time, like, yo, that's the hustle. That's the grind. The grind is the grind. Like, yo, y'all want to see, you want to see what winning is to me? Doing free game is winning. We was talking about, it's like, yo, we ain't get a lot of hits. I'll do free game with one person. One person show up there, one person, that's cool. We about to have a hell of an hour conversation, right? Like, yo, for me, living that, once you live in that, it gets a lot easier to do the other things. Like, I take my own advice, bro. Like going to go go. I just told you to go romance, whatever. Like, yo, building this one-on-one relationship with y'all is as important as going to go speak to a CEO of a brand or like, yo, for me, it's about those organic one-on-one relationships. And I might sacrifice blowing through some bottles or going on a trip. But at the end of the day, if you do this, you'll have the opportunity to do that for the rest of your life. Does that make sense?
I appreciate it. I don't want to bore everybody again, but I want to go back to the inflation.
Yeah.
So we did a show, me and my man Darnell right here last week, talk about Nike changing their terms of service.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people was focused on the fact that, you know, it was aimed at resellers.
Yep.
But doing your deeper dive, you saw that that stock price actually dropped like 50% over the course of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more aimed against people returning things because right now they bloated in stock. Even right now, I'm looking at my phone and I'm getting like restock notices. And they said and I thought about you actually. One of the solutions to it was like storytelling. I was like, and I thought about you like with the storytelling piece. I'm like, okay. But the other piece was just like brand loyalty.
Yeah.
The fact that they think in like 3 months they can make 12 billion. For a smaller retailer, what's the solution?
Well, let me make sure I answer the question right, because it's two questions. Let me answer the first one about Nike. I think it's twofold. I think everybody's heard. What do you get when you don't get it off of sneakers? Sorry, Nike. I don't have a sneakers account. Sorry, but what's the message you get when you don't get the shoes off Nike? No, to say not sorry next time, and then it's like got them. Yeah, whatever the decline message is that you didn't get a shoe. Yeah, like so the sorry. I think everybody's seen more sorries than they have got 'ems, right? So the idea is about making it fair for consumers, but you're absolutely right. When you start to think about they're running a business, right? And it seems like it's an opportune time for them to change the policies. But like, yo, Nike's a damn nuclear flagship. So if we talking about something 5 years ago, by the time Nike can do it through legal and comms, and we got to talk to this person and talk to that person and talk to this people, they got more people they got to talk. It's like yo, like that guy, damn, can you send them a kite? But it takes them that long to react to something. So it's a bit of both, right? It's a bit of definitely want to make sure the consumer experience is good. So people like actual humans get shoes on their feet, right? And there's tons of people now who just want to make, there's this whole fairness mandate that's been floating around there that you're starting to see. And this is probably a part of that.
And honestly, I've been getting a lot of like, I mean, probably everybody in here be getting like the question. It's like, is it fair?
Yeah,
I've been getting that often recently.
Well, and the thing is this: if you're the thing I got to give Nike some credit for is they do listen, right? Like I sat, and this is probably more than I should say, but I will say, I sat in the offsite there with some of their leaders recently. In the work that some of their leaders do to try to make sure that they're showing up for us the right way, it'll take years before you guys see it because it's such a big organization. But when y'all see us have the ability, and I can say it now, we did a free game here last month, about a month ago, October 29th, September 29th. Yeah, damn, it was in Detroit. So 2 months ago now, 2 months ago, we had a private free game in space only with the executive leadership team from Nike in space. And some of the people who sit in free game most were in the sessions. And they came not because they had to come. They came to get a real consumer experience. They came to really hear not from me, because they like, yo, James, what do you want to do? I'm like, yo, I want y'all to sit with them because y'all are my energy, right? So if you want someone to get energy, I want them to get the same energy that I'm getting and had the same real conversation I had, because then when they hear you talk about fairness, right? Or when they hear us talk about what's happening with the the choices we got to make, because if it don't stand on, if somebody's not standing for our principles, we ain't fucking with them, right? They got to hear you talk about colorism and what it's like to be a black woman with dark skin, right? To get to hear that in the first person is way different than hearing from me, right? So I say all that to say the work we're doing has meaning and it has push, but yo, it's not fast enough. Be the next person to say that too. Like, yo, we're here. We have the privilege to have these relationships. Y'all see us do a lot of incredible product. You see us do a lot of incredible things. Those things don't happen unless some people make courageous decisions. Somebody don't want me to say this, but there's people at corporations every day that's saying, fuck the Whitaker Group. Why are we doing this with them? But there's a leader that's saying, because they stand on what we stand on, and if you don't stand on it, then fuck you. They said a little more corporate than that, but I'm just getting it. I'm just giving you what I'm giving you. You know what I'm saying? And it's about having purpose, right? So what I would like to believe is that, no, it's not what I like to believe. What I do believe is, thankfully, the right people are in some of the right seats to keep the conversations moving. It might not be happening at the speed that we wanted it to happen, but it's happening, right? So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. And honestly, and I don't want to keep, I don't want to prolong, but you know, one of the things that we came down to conclusion of is their initiative of going direct to the consumer was really one of the meanings of actually changing in terms of service. So, I mean, is it really about the user experience versus preparing themselves to build more physical stores?
Both. But I mean, you can't do that without culture. The closer you get to the streets, the more the streets affect you. If you come to the streets and you ain't in the streets, you ain't gonna be in the streets. Does that make sense? Like every last one of y'all know where not to go and where to go and when and how. Because y'all all moving around, y'all outside, right? Or y'all know who to call, when to call, and why. Right? Like, yo, if you out here, you can't come out here unless you allowed out here. And if they gonna be out here, they got to make sure they plugged in. And we out here. This is ours. It's been ours, right? So you got to also give them some credit for understanding what it takes to be outside. And right, and if you're gonna represent our culture, you got to live in it. And if you got to live in it, you got to live in it with an authentic voice. And you got to run with people who is gonna make sure you all right. You ain't gonna go out with nobody that's gonna let you get smacked with a bottle and do nothing about it. So it's the same thing, different though, right? Yeah.
Feel like Nike hasn't opened up its own stores because of like you live in this ecosystem here. And then they was like, hey, I'll have to compete with James if I come to Charlotte. Same thing, like we got Jordan here and he doesn't have a Jordan store. You know how stupid that is.
Well, he does. Spectrum Center.
No, I'm talking about like what was the Jordan store in Chicago? It's something similar. It's something
so-
like House
so
of Hoop, but I'm talking about like he was giving them
You
like,
want me to break your heart?
go ahead. I ain't gonna get it. I know we ain't gonna get it, but it's just
Somebody gonna smack me for this.
I don't even know what you're gonna say because you here probably.
I can't say what I want to say. What I'll say is this: everything don't look like what it actually is, and if you from afar away, uh, uh, the facade looks impressive. Once you get up close and personal, it may be a bit more disconnected than what you actually see. I think the stores that you are seeing going forward are being open with a lot of intention. I think some of the things previously that you've seen weren't open with the level of intention and detail that some of the stuff that you're seeing now, right? Yeah, so I think everything I said before is less about the thing that I can say is they understand the commitment to being hyper connected to the community and the people who live in it, right? And no different than you ain't gonna hang around with nobody that's gonna let something happen to you, right? They wanna hang around with people who they know got their back as well. So I think you'll continue to see it. I hope it never gets to a point where we stepping on toes, but right now we in a bit of a love affair and it works. And it's not just them. It's not just, let's not make this about just one brand. Anybody who we work with it has to be a love affair. The moment it's not a love affair, T is like, mhm. Usually it's over.
Hi, everybody. My name is Maya. My question is about digital currency and how you think it'll affect retail in the next 2 to 5 years with banks signing the policy they just signed. I don't know what it's called, so don't quote me. And then I also want to know, how are you helping your consumers be informed about digital currencies and what that'll look like in the next 2 to 5 years?
It's interesting that you said, because personally, James Whitner, I've been in crypto for a while, not as early as I should have been. But I think as you start to think about digital currency, it's also like thinking about inflation, right? Remember when Bitcoin was at 70 or 80,000? That was the high, right? But just 2 years before that, you needed the same amount of Bitcoins that got you a pizza in 2018, 17, 16, one of those years. You could have 100 Bitcoin probably got you a pizza, right? 100 Bitcoin when Bitcoin was at 60,000 would have bought you a vacation home somewhere, right? So it's a lot of fluctuation. So it's a vicious game you start playing when you start playing with consumer rights, right? And the easiest way to get the feds to come knock on your door is start playing with consumer rights. Yeah, I don't want no federal problems, right? So the education part is very different than the access exchange part. Like for us to create a digital currency starts taking us into a interesting space, and the level of accountability that goes with that space. I'm into core competency game right now, right? So that means for me, be really good at what you're good at and focus there. And unless you can be really good at something else, work with someone who is good at it, right? So I think we're not in a place, and even if you look at I think Elon Musk and Tesla was one of the bigger companies to accept Bitcoin, bought billions of Bitcoin in the pandemic, and then quietly sold it off their books, right? As everything started tumbling down and the stocks got more normal, right? So there's this idea like shoot, over the pandemic, everybody's favorite word was NFT. You don't hear it as much no more, right? Right. When the market starts softening, it starts to go back to its principles. Earlier in this conversation, we was talking about the prices of bread, milk, butter, right? The necessities. When you start talking about the price of those, Bitcoin don't matter no more, right? You start to talk about survival, right? You start to talk about the principles of our economic system. So I think there's an opportunity, but I would say when the economy breaks, all the other basic opportunities, like housing and like it starts to get back to like the principles of our economic. It'll always be first real estate, small businesses and medium-sized businesses, and blue chip stocks. You'll see the money go in those places, in my opinion, right? Because the blue chips is something we can all count on, right? Real estate is something we can all y'all need a place to stay, right? And in a startup and middle, the small business is something that America built itself on. So people will always be looking to invest in the best ideas and the newest things and the brightest folks and the best new thinking, right? Those are the principles of what was founded on. So for me, I'd rather talk about that because I know I ain't gonna walk you into no wall. Does that make sense? Especially when things are as volatile or as they are now. Now, you can go find a YouTube video right now that says somebody's about to get rich because fuck was the joint Cordona it was $2 and now what is it, 28 cents, right? So if you got what extra money to throw it away and throw it in Cordona, yeah, maybe 8, 9 years or come back. Maybe it'll never come back again and it'll go to zero, right? That's a maybe. Apple ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
If you bought a home, it's not going nowhere. Does that make sense?
So I guess my other question is like regarding retail. As a retailer, would you ever accept like digital currency, or is that something that you're looking into or something?
Yes, but not now. I just think when you start to accept it means you accept the risk and I accept the risk as well. Does that make sense? Because now, say we start accepting Bitcoin tomorrow. And remember, we start talking about the Fed's job with the inflation is the balance price and the dollar, right? Nothing holds Bitcoin up. It can spike right now while we have free game and be worth 60,000 before we get out of here, right? Or it could drop down to fucking $2. That ain't a game that I could play with capital. Does that make sense? If I was to say like, yo, okay, we done X amount of sales, right? Let's make X $1, right? So let's say our bills is 50 cents. Well, we accepted currency in something that was volatile, right? That $1 at any time can be worth 10 cents. We got a problem. Does that make sense? So we can't go off accepting digital currency at a heavy pace, and then we're accepting the risk of doing business in digital currency as well. Because if we go to sleep, just wake up like, oh shit, oh damn, Bitcoin dropped 90%. We could be out of business. Does that make sense? And so again, it goes back to the reason why the Fed polices it. Some people say, oh yeah, they want to stop us from eating. They also want to stop you from getting burnt, right? Remember AMC, right? AMC was at 500. Everybody was in it. You buy it, you get some, I got some, right? You bought it, and then you couldn't trade that shit. And it was fucking tanking while you was sitting there hitting the button, screaming like a motherfucker, calling people on the phone. He was screaming and shit, right? And can't nobody say nothing afterward, right? And all they can do is have a fucking hearing and investigate, right? Those are the things that when you start talking about currency and inflation, those two things kind of go hand in hand, right? So inflation, high inflation also means you can't start dealing in a whole bunch of new currencies where there may not be stability, because it could break things. The idea or the potential of it breaking something is more important than the potential of you gaining something. Does that make sense? But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be educated in digital currency. Doesn't mean that we ignore digital currency. It just means that when inflation is running the way it is right now, like, yo, all of y'all should be tucking more than y'all spending. The Fed is saying, it's like somebody saying right now, there's somebody outside with a gun waiting to rob you. That's what the Fed is essentially doing. So I'm about to stick y'all up. I'm about to make everything more expensive for y'all so y'all can slow down. So if somebody's telling you they're trying to slow you down, what should you do? Save, right? Because he's saying that I'm about to slow the economy down. So that means if you're saving your bread, what happens when the economy is at the bottom? Deals on real estate, deals on that car you wanted, deal on that vacation you wanted to go to, deal on the hotel you wanted to stay in, deals on everything across the board, right? Because the economy is going to soften. Once the economy softens, that's when the real opportunities the opportunities that'll make you wealthy start to show themselves. Any more questions? And let's take one, Mark, let's take one on Zoom.
Yeah, there's a quick question here. It goes back to when you were talking about the midterm elections. Actually, I want to shout out Eric, who just want to put a distinction between redlining and gerrymandering. And I think gerrymandering is what you were kind of building on. So shout out to Eric for putting that distinction there. We have a question from LaQuane. I hope I said your name right. As an entrepreneur, how much do you think that political entities actually affect you and the day-to-day business? What are some of the actions that perhaps have happened recently that affect perhaps business or decision making?
I mean, I'm wired different, so I'm trying to think about that question in fairness. Really, it's the only thing that I can think of top of mind is through taxes, because their actions don't affect how we do business per se. I think it affects our day-to-day lives. Does that make sense? Because I think when you start to talk about politics and business, I just think the first thing my mind goes to is taxes, right? And the other is sometimes access and ability, right? Having access to getting things to move faster or in your favor, right? Like you hear lobbyists, people talk a lot about lobbyists, but that's a lot for much bigger businesses or much wealthy businesses. For our business per se, I only think about politics as it affects our community, so it affects our business, right? So for us, our business is our community. So because the politics affects our community, affects our business. So I would say less about our business and more about the people, the communities we're part of, and the people that we care about. And when something affects them, it affects us.
That's a
Sorry,
great point.
Mark, you got another one for me?
Oh no, I thought you were about to. I thought you were about to deep dive there. You did the deep dive stare. So I thought you
Oh
were
no,
about
I didn't. I didn't. I'm trying to stay off my Obama today, man. Shout out to my man Barack. Come back for 4 more.
Okay, cool. I guess this is more a question that's come up also in discussion recently, which I think will be helpful for everyone. What are the things that you're most excited? Obviously, you haven't had free game in a little while. What are the best developments you've seen in the industry recently that got you excited, either looking ahead or that got you reinvigorated?
I think somebody's gonna laugh at me. Lately, I wear a lot of shades. Like it's only the things that we're doing is the things that I'm hyper focused on. Like so I think the global opportunities, right? And opportunities I think that we had to have a unified voice. I think that's probably the biggest thing. You start to see the power of, should I go back to George Floyd? I was in my glory when everybody was in the streets every day. Hell, I didn't even care that we got broken into. I was still like, fuck it, they can have it. Like, just keep marching, right? So for me, I think it's a unified community, and that's the point that I was making when I started talking about Black folks and Jewish folks, is because I would love to see us unify in a way that they unify and stand up for each other the way they stand up for each other. And I think as it goes back to our business, I think it's just the opportunity to be in so many other communities. Like I'm super excited to get Flagship over next year, super excited to get to Harlem, super excited to get to London, super excited to get to Baltimore, super excited to get in Detroit. Like I'm just excited to get and move around and touch people and like continue to build on this movement. I think people are look at like a moment, not realizing like, yo, we for us, this is like the clock just started. We just got off a jump ball and they just called a commercial. And now we just came out the jump ball. So somebody might be thinking like, oh, y'all, this is second quarter or third quarter. Like for us, we're looking at it, this is the clock is ticking very slow and we got a lot to do. And I know I probably didn't say a lot about what I'm excited about, but I'll say selfishly, it's just about the people we touching and the communities we in a way, in the ways that we're going to get creative in speaking and telling our stories and pushing us forward. Everything else is just everything else. And don't get me wrong, we're going to have some fun in there. Like there's beach, there's living, there's the occasional private party that you let your hair down and have fun in, all those things that connect back to the work. Yeah, but I think the work, I'm infatuated with the work.
All right, one last question before we take the next one in space. We're gonna kind of loosen up a little bit. NBA season started. Who's your champion? What's your prediction? We need to hear it.
Oh, say it again. You were low. Say it again. Who's my
What's your prediction for NBA champion?
NBA champion?
Yeah.
The Hornets. You heard it. Haters. Go ahead. Somebody say, I can see whatever y'all saying in the comments. Balls MVP.
All right, we'll take a question from space. Any other
That's what
questions
I'm
there,
saying.
George?
What else you got for me? We questions of space. We do got one.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the real reasons, just in regards to like going back to what Maya kind of asked about. So of course you invest in real estate. And I invest in real estate too. So right now I'm kind of like I bought something maybe about a month ago or so. Numbers was real good on it, but I'm interested to hear from an aspect of what is your strategy right now and kind of like when I started investing, it was maybe like 2 years ago. Rates is real low. So now to see like, and of course rates are still lower than what they originally kind of were, which may be like a 10%, et cetera. So I'm interested to hear what your strategy is right now, just in regards to the real estate investing.
Sitting and watching.
Right.
Like sitting and watching. It's too much happening, man. When you say to me, low human productivity, right? People want to do less for more right now, which means the prices of everything is high as hell. Fed is fighting inflation. Real estate's at all-time high. Economy's overheated. And I think the headline said we're at a 100% chance of a recession. And I say we're already in one. Next year they'll tell us, oh yeah, we're in a recession since the middle of last year. So I think we're already in a beginning of it, and we have been since last quarter. And I think we're just going to see it get worse. So again, I sat through 08, and this is going to be a different recession than 08, but the Fed is going to break something. And these rates, if you ask me, I think we're looking at 7% now on a 30-year fixed. I think we're going to see 10, 12 potentially on a 30-year fix. And I think when you start to see 10 and 12 at a 30-year fix, all these commercial properties that you see going up, 90 going north, somebody somewhere is going, you're going to realize they was keeping a poker face, and they're going to have to show that hand, and you're going to realize, man, they've been fucking bluffing. We got them, right? I'm waiting to just not to be the guy, right? I'm trying to make sure my hand is super tight and making sure our foundation is super solid. And I want to be able to sit back mid next year and be like, yep, let us get that. We'll take that. Oh, you're liquidating that. We'll take that. Right. So I think right now is a time to really, really lock in your foundation, tighten up all your personal loose ends.
What do you mean by that?
Whatever your loose ends are, right? You know the thing that you hate to do when you go to the gym. Are you a chest guy or a leg guy?
Right.
Do more legs if you're a chest guy.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like right now, you gotta, the things that you ain't, if you know your books ain't all the way together, get your books together. If you know this ain't right, get that right, right? I mean, right now, because it's like somebody telling you about to go to war. What you gonna do? Like you gonna go out and party? The Fed is saying I'm gonna break you motherfuckers, right? So I said, cool, I'm gonna get ready for you to break me. I'm gonna go tool up. I'm gonna be sitting here waiting for you. When I hear you come in, I'm gonna be ready. You can get them, you ain't gonna get me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think for me, and listen, the juxtaposition to that is if you're so well capitalized, meaning cash,
Right.
So if you got, depending upon how you, if you're buying in a $250,000 range and you got 20 times that in the tuck, wait. I still say wait, because the asset prices is going to go down. Cash is king right now, right? Even if you just look at the stock market dropped 20, 30%, and they still say it got some ways to go. I read something the other day that said the S&P is still overpriced, right? So you got people that are way smarter than me saying these things. You can get treasury, like, yo, like I shouldn't say this, but I said anyway. I was doing like crypto. No one try this. This is not investing advice. Don't try it at home. But I was doing lending to cryptocurrency companies, right? So basically, if you pledge a certain amount of money, so instead of having my money in stocks and bonds, do something a little different. I take my excess and I'll put some excess, few quarters and pennies, and lend it to a company, right? They go out and lend it to hedge funds. Shit, I think I got a good rate. I got like 9%. And I was getting 9% all through the pandemic. That's great. That's not good money. That's great money. But as things started to get weird, I was like, let me get that back. I got a rate card today. Ask me what the rate card said.
What did the rate card say?
14%.
Damn.
Yes. So if motherfucker offering you that, two things is wrong. Either they ain't got no money or they need some money. So yo, you know what that said to me? Hold my money. Does that make sense? Like,
Right.
yo, the opportunities have yet to show themselves. And if they have, which I doubt, you're gonna still have time. Right. So that's what I'm doing. I'm chilling. We're
Okay.
chilling. We're finishing our breakfast on everything that was our current plans
Right.
through the last 3 years. Anything that were plans that haven't started, that were a part of future forward plans, during our future forward plans, any of my personal real estate development, I'm still doing all of that stuff because that's another fun, right? But anything that's like new thinking, new idea, new start funding, no,
Just bread and butter right now.
no, just bread and butter right now. Foundation,
Same thing.
yeah, rights and lefts.
This is more like of a question statement, I guess, but how do you feel about Bank of America targeting Black and Hispanics and putting a headline of, hey, we're helping you get houses, yet the interest rate, they're putting us in a bond and they're putting us in a loop?
Yeah. Okay. So this is a good one. It's tough because not just Bank of America, but middle of the pandemic, how many companies did you see come up on the news and Google it? Headline: Chase says they're going to give $1 trillion to Black women in new businesses. Bank of America is going to do $1 billion in Black business, and person's going to do $2 trillion, $8 billion in Black business, and we're doing this and that. Yo, here we are. Who the fuck's doing what? Hold on, 1 second, so you can get the mic so they can hear you. So it's not just the headlines don't bother me, right? What bothers me is the tactical action. And listen, one of my closest friends was just with me, and I sit on an advisory board for Bank of America. And like, yo, sorry, Bank of America, I do a lot of fucking screaming. Like, yo, a lot of screaming because the pace of it is too fucking slow, right? Like, yo, you can't have a bank that's so big that it can't help anyone. Does that make sense? So when your answer is bank regulations are so big that it doesn't allow us to help small people. So yeah, kudos to helping people without credit or credit scores get, and that's tough, right? For young people, if rates was better, it would be a better conversation, right? And that's why I said like chill, because prices are high, rates are high, right? So you could get in it and come back and refi it later. So, or you got to applaud them for doing something, right? So applause for doing something. But like, yo, it's a lot of like, yo, we do a lot with a little bit, right? We ain't here talking to y'all. We talking to whoever in the world who want to log on, and we just make lemonade, right? So the expectation of what we get from banks and all the people, again, all those people who said they was doing whatever they was doing, all I would say is, what are they doing now? Or what they talking about now? Who, remember when everybody was putting the black screen up on Tuesday or whatever the fuck the idea that was, and they stand for or calling you asking what can they do to help? When's the last time you got a call from somebody asking you what can they do to help? Shit's non-existent.
Community. So that's just something that to notice too, kind of on the play on words, right? Like not actual Black and brown people, but in their communities, right? So that means as long as you're buying in that community, right, whoever it is, and you're a first-time home buyer, that's when. So that was something interesting that what stood out to me, right? So that's just all I wanted to say.
Yeah, man. Listen, again, applaud them for getting a loan. Just so I say it, and I'm being fair, giving someone a loan without a without credit is a thing, right? It only happened in '08 when it was like no doc, no whatever, and the shit was damn near fraudulent. So to do that is a thing, right? But I just would challenge them to say, like, yo, there's an expectation to do a lot more. And when you have 4 or 5 banks, they got enough power to change. If they wanted to, they wanted to sell weed at Circle K. Weed is being sold at Circle K. They legislated, they lobbied, they got enough states to do it now, and they seeing it happen, right? If the banks want something to happen, it'll happen. The catch is helping us don't help their bottom line, right? Because at the end of the day, they're about their bottom line first, right? And that's the thing that I'm continuing to learn. It's not going to mean that I'm not going to help or push them and scream and fight, but they're about the bottom line first. Go ahead, Lee.
So I had to walk out, but I heard you say that you're in a space now, Detroit and Baltimore, and both of those areas are like for Black and brown people, it's a rough area for there. So do you feel like, because this right here, I would kind of say is like community, and not really that you're selling the community. So do you feel like with what you're doing, you're highlighting the communities that need the most help?
Yeah,
Or-
you hit
or-
it. I'm sorry. Let me let you finish. Go ahead.
I lost my thought.
So I'm sorry. Well, I'll say something to help you get it. You hit it spot on. We want to be where we at, no question. Like we going to New York. We could go to Soho, but no disrespect. Like there's people in Soho that do that. I'm trying to be in Harlem. Like when I'm in New York, I'm trying to be where I'm at. 'Cause I'm trying to be where we at. I'm saying, like, at the end of the day, we are the energy. So like, yo, I want us to have all our shit back and own it. Like y'all got to come through us, and not meaning just us, but come through us. Y'all ain't coming through us, you ain't about nothing.
I,
Right,
I think I remember what I was about to say. How do you feel like the community's been reacting to you? Because I think you did something with Jalen Rose in Detroit, right?
Yeah, we done. Listen, I think. Oh, we done Black Footwear Forum with Dwayne Edwards in Pensacola College, and shout out to Dwayne and everything he's doing with Open HBCU, and even before that, having a design school that's putting Black and brown faces in our industry. But it's a slow burn, bro. I'm gonna keep it funky with you. I get frustrated. Like, yo, I do free game. I'll walk in here and do free game with a person. I do free game with 20 people, but shit, I would love to do free game with 200 million people. That's why I said the comment about Jewish folks. Like, yo, they take pride in doing business with each other. I just seen some shit on Instagram. Like, yo, they do business with each other. And yes, there's bad Jewish people too. And all, like Ari would say to me, all Jewish people aren't rich, right? But there's a way that they stand up for one another that's just different, right? And there's a way that they built that's just different. Yo, I want that. Like, I said something to somebody. You know why I don't compete against people? Because I'm very comfortable in my own fucking skin. Nobody's going in my pockets and taking nothing. Promise you that, right? So what's mine's is mine's, right? So I'm comfortable with the people around me having what they have. And actually, I'd rather have it that way. It's better together. Me winning by myself is not fun. Like, you want to be in the party with yourself, everybody looking at you, have fun. Like, no, I want to go, my man having, I want to go celebrate him and celebrate her, and everybody win, right? So for me, I want to see do I want to see more? Hell yeah. I want to see people get as excited about getting information as they get excited about getting a fucking man year 4 at retail, right? Like, people get excited about the 4. I'm like, yo, the 4 is cool, but damn, can we get this on? And listen, this is just me, I'm just being honest, right? Like, yo, I love what we do. I love my day job. I love working in the trenches of my day job and doing that part and creating the energy and the sugar. But I'm way more passionate about this part. And is it where I want it to be? Fuck no. Somebody got killed last night, or probably 5 minutes ago, right? Somebody got indicted a couple minutes ago. Like, yo, we still in a dire ass spot as a culture and as a race, and we still don't have enough ownership of the things that we support. So in short, I'm blessed. We're blessed because there's opportunity for forward movement, but we know we're close to where we need to be.
So you've mentioned a couple of times about how people wouldn't come out for the free game as they would come out for the Jordan release. Why would we not combine both? Like, you're really articulate speaking to us, and like you break it down very simply for anybody to understand. So why would you not try to combine the two? Like, what would be the downfall? Obviously, I wouldn't know, but what would be the downfall of combining both to try to draw more people to come see you? Because I think once they hear you speak, they would understand why it's so important to hear you speak.
I think you about to make me be too honest. I think we give ourselves, we've done it before. Like we've done, and we do it now. Like generally speaking, if you're local, you get our shoe. Even if you don't come to the events. Like I think any of y'all who ever tried to get a shoe that we release, social status man year, APB, if you're a local, guaranteed, not guaranteed is a big word. So you're not guaranteed because the second somebody don't get one, I'm gonna get tore down on social media. So you're not guaranteed. I'm sorry. But it's a high likelihood that you do, right? And the other thing is I want people to be in it for the right reasons. I'll say something different to you. You got a girl? You won't walk up to her and say, baby, I'm about you the world. Would you? Some dude would say that, but I wouldn't, right? That's kind of like, yo, I don't want it that way. Like I want to run with people that I know, like they're really like I'm a principled dude. Like, yo, I want to ride with the people who I know with the shits. And if you ain't with the shits, if you want to shoot, that's cool because that's helping drive awareness to the movement, right? But the people with the shits, you know, they with the shits. So I'd rather be in a room with 20 people that's with the shits than be in a room with 2,000 people. And then I got to weed out the fuck boys and girls, people with the shits, right? The people who with the shits, if y'all hit me on my phone, my number 70. My number's not, you can fucking Google it, right? If you text me, I'm getting back to you, right? And the people who don't want nothing, they ain't texting me because they don't want to talk about nothing, right? But if you got something to really talk about, I got information for you, right? Like, so to answer that question, that's really what it is.
Can you guys hear me?
My name is Vashti.
Oh.
I actually had the opportunity to meet you in Detroit at the Black Footwear Forum. I was a student and product of Pencil. So I worked for a brand. Don't want to put too many details behind it.
Nameless.
Yeah, remaining nameless. But I was a part of a team where we increased diversity, equity, and inclusion by 80%. And from that, you know, assuming, as you mentioned before, like those headlines, those statements, our duties and things of that nature, that things would shift, things would change, but at the end of the day, it's still like the bottom line, as you mentioned before. So for someone who's not as grassroots or still kind of like in a space where they're like intertwined in the community, wanting to really like push us forward, what would you say for those people that are in those corporations, not always seeing the change? Either it's like a up or down thing to where they are making change and where they're not always making change. What would you say for those who are in those positions and kind of want to see that change? And what would you kind of want them to stand up for, and what would be their duty?
Good question. It's a really good question because it's interesting. Because the first thing I need all of y'all to be is to be able to take care of yourselves. You have to have gainful ability to earn. And I say gainful ability to earn because I don't care how you earn, but gainful ability to earn. And if you're employed by someone else and your value systems don't align, your voice may not be heard, right? And that's what we find a lot in corporate America, right? Because our values aren't the values of our employees, of our employers at times, right? So you feel muzzled or you don't feel seen, to use a quote, right? So it depends first on who the employer is, right? And understanding the culture you in, right? If you went out to have a drink tonight, right? Soon as you walked in a bar, you would catch the vibe, right? People moving, they dancing. Is it tense? Is it this? Is it that? You could catch the vibe. Understand the culture where you are first, right? if there is a movement taking place, figure out just like just like you jumping in, you can dance, sure. So when you jump on the dance floor, you just naturally on beat, right? But that was learned though, right? Because you've done it so many times. Doing the work is the same, right? Because you got to make sure you want to jump in on beat, because if not, somebody could try to hurt you. And the first thing, be courageous, right? But don't get hurt. So you want to make sure you align yourself to people that are willing to do the work for the right reasons, right? And or with a group of people, just start doing the work with each other. G used to be at a brand, I'll remain nameless, right? And what we do is just have each other's back, right? What I like to say is when people aren't in the room, you are, right? And people may not always hear what you're saying, but say it anyway. Does that make sense? And continue to build and eventually, and be consistent and be courageous. And as you're courageous and as you're consistent, be the best at what you do, right? Because the other requirement in being bold is being the best, right? Don't think the motherfuckers don't want to shoot me, right? Motherfuckers shoot at us all the time. They got one problem. We're actually really good at this shit. Like really, really good at this shit. So when they shooting, sniper got them already. They drop before they hit the trigger, right? When they start talking that bullshit, we hear it already, right? Because I know what I stand for. And I know it's dangerous to be who we are to some people, and some people feel threatened by it. Fuck them, right? That's when I'm gonna double down, and while they sleeping, I'm working. I'm saying, while they sleeping and thinking about, like, I see they move already, right? So be careful, right? But be courageous and be consistent. Does that make sense? Okay. Mark, we'll come to you next. We on a bit of a roll here. You got anything up there before we take this one?
Yeah, we just got one sitting here, one from Tuck actually. Tuck, what up?
We'll take one more in space and then we'll come to you.
Got you.
Okay.
So after talking with a lot of people in my age group, it's been a
Oh, what you
conversation.
trying to say? Your age group?
It's like, Gen Z,
I hear you.
whatever.
I hear you.
They feel, or we feel like sometimes you can get compensated more at a white company doing the same job that you might do at a black company. So in what ways are you helping like combat this, or give, I guess, money advice, or just like monetary compensation to the people that that work for you?
Go to where anybody who I said, yo, your first interest is your interest. You gotta go get what you can get. I've sent a gazillion people to Nike. They pay really good, right? I can't pay what they can pay. I gotta let them live, right? But there's a ton of people who gonna grow with us. And as we grow, the foundation of who we have built, and we gotta build our foundation as other predominantly white companies built their foundation, right? The only answer that I always give anybody is you have to, but I'll say it for this reason. Usually we're undercapitalized as minority businesses, different than white companies. And when you say white companies, you are also probably saying some publicly traded companies, some bigger companies. So publicly traded companies are going to be able to pay better than private companies, right? And it also depends on the role you work in a private company, right? And also when you're here, using our company, for example, somebody at retail, they make between $9 and $15 an hour, depending on where they are. You in retail, right? But the insights you get from retail, you can take to corporate and do whatever you do with the insights, right? You got to start somewhere and level to go. For me, it's about getting there. It's not a competition. So I'm gonna go back to the same thing before. Can't nobody get in here. These are James's pockets, right? Those are your pockets, right? But I can help you get the information. If you come to me and be like, yo, Jay, I want to work for check, bet. Get your resume to here. I know somebody there. I'm gonna make the intro. Does it make sense? It's about the journey. It's about the community, right? We all got a responsibility first to ourselves. You just heard me say it. If you're not good, I can't be good. I'm only as good as the people I surround myself with, right? So if you're a part of our team, I need you to do the best that you feel that you can do for yourself 100% of the time. I tell people all the time, outwork. If someone comes in my space, any space around me, and they work so hard, guess what? I'm gonna see them. How the fuck you think I'm sitting here? Ain't like, yo, today, 20 years in, I don't think people want to work with me. And not because, yo, I get it in. Like I'm 12 o'clock, somebody got a drink in their hand, I'm still getting it in. I got a drink in my hand and I'm still getting it in. I got a drink in my hand thinking about getting it in. Does that make sense? Like I'm with the bullshit. I'm with all the bullshit, right? So it's tough. It's tough for me, and I'm got it out the mud, right? So it's tough for me to hear somebody be like, yo, what the opportunity is, yo, make the fucking opportunity. Like, yo, if you got it, motherfucker, show me, right? If you working, like, there ain't no boundaries. The person who's on the cash register could be the director of whatever. I ain't like, yo, if you got the potential and you showing you doing the work, I don't pay people. The business does, and not the literal. I'll say it differently. I don't pay people. The work does. I don't fire people. The work do. You ain't doing your fucking. I'm not firing you because I'm mad at you. I'm mad at you because you ain't fucking doing the work, and you just heard me say it. I get it in. So if you ain't getting it in, and I'm getting it in, I don't let you go. The work lets you go. Your inability to perform the work lets you go. Does that make sense? Your ability to do the work pushes you forward. Lock in on the work, all of the work. Anticipate the next work. You heard me say it to the camera. Somebody going, this nigga say, I mean, this dude say, this dude says people shooting at him, but he say, like, yo, you don't hear me. I'm a very humble guy, right? But yo, we doing the work, right? And the work we're doing now is what people see. We talk about tomorrow. We talk about everything that's going to happen next year. Guess what? You think they believe that shit? No. Next year, they're going to see it and be like, damn, where this come from? You're going to be like, yo, you've been talking about this shit for 2 years. They're going to be looking at you like you got 2 fucking heads. Like, that shit's crazy. Did you see that happen? And then that happened and that happened? Like, you think this is a game? You think we playing? I ain't got no fucking time for playing. Come on, man. I'll say it again. We with the shits. So for us as Black folks, go back to Jewish money exchanges hands in their community because people's coming, showing up and do the work. People going to go take their motherfucking talents. I'm the best. I'm going to go be the best here. Yo, I'm dope. Let me show you I'm dope. I'm going to show you I'm so dope. Here, take me to every meeting. I'm doing the work here. Like, here go everything. Yo, here go the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Go get Cav. If you give me something good, I'm going to make gold out of it. I'm going to come up with something good to make gold out of it. But if you sit back and talk to me about what you should do or could do or would do, you ain't going to be talking to the wall. I ain't going to be listening to that shit. It's all action and no rapping. Does that make sense? Like, miss me with the top, like any of it. And that's not at any person, but it's just at like what it takes. Going back to the idea of cycling in the community, if everybody in the community is with the shits and everybody in the community start moving at they take their productivity from a 4 and put it at the fuck it and go all in, then you'll start to see shit'll change different. But people's motives and agendas and what they want personally for themselves look very different than people want to get paid. People want to get paid how somebody who does a ton of work get paid without wanting to do the work. Does that make sense? Mark, you had something for us on screen.
Yeah, we got a question from Tuck. Going back to sports, if you can create a Mount Rushmore of athletes or visionaries that inspire you every day to grow, who would they be and why?
Who? Say that. Hold on, one more time. You said it was.
Stories. If you can create a Mount Rushmore of athletes or visionaries that inspire you every day to grow, who would they be and why?
Me or our culture?
You can answer however you feel. Let's go culture.
Oh, goodness.
See what you've
Mount
done,
Rushmore. Jay is on it. That's that he came out to the mud. So he goes on it. Barack Obama goes on it. MJ goes on it. How many more people I get? That means I got to go with somebody with potential then. And I leave one blank. Right? Because I think we're at a place now where the next thing, I truly believe that we're in the next thing. Like I'm super fucking excited right now. And I'm looking at motherfuckers all crazy. They probably like, what you looking at? Like, I'm looking to see if you might got it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm looking at to see if there's a thing that I'm catching, or is there something unique you saying or doing, because, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm hypersensitive to it right now, or like, yo, like I wanted to go to a concert with my daughter tonight. What is it? Steve Lacy? Is that his name? Yeah, I wanted to go to that concert tonight with my daughter. She didn't know. She was like, I want to go to this concert. I'm like, me too. I just needed a reason to go. I didn't want to look like the dude at the concert with the youngins, right? But I wanted to go because I wanted to see it. I wanted to make sure I wasn't missing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are the moments where, like, I told y'all, like, again, '08 was, y'all thinking like the world was fucked up, but motherfucking culture was brewing and shit was happening. And boom, this motherfucker drops a Yeezy, and we like, oh shit, this fucker got a whole sneaker. And it's the first time we seen a lineup, and motherfuckers paying $500 for a shoe on release day. Well, we seen that with Jordans before, but a non-Jordan was the first time we was like, oh shit. Like, I remember being sick. I didn't have them. Nike gave them to another store, niche market. I was fucking sick to my stomach. And like, yo, like, that was the moment when you was like, yo, shit, this is it. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking for that moment, and we got to create it. So I'll leave my other spot blank. Mark, you got another one for me up there? We got one inside if you ain't got one.
We'll do the last one up here, and then we'll take the one inside. An interesting question. Is it smart to approach gaining success and, I guess, building your business with a community first mindset? I've always felt like collaboration achieves more than going solo. Is it smart to move as a group or solo?
Is it smarter to move as a group or solo?
Yeah, a community first mindset in building a business, or is it first to have personal ambition and building on top of that, I guess?
Well, it always takes some personal ambition, but you got to move with, like, I've always moved by myself. And listen, here we go with me answering questions with both sides of my mouth. So you need a strong set of individuals to move, right? But at first, the first requirement is you have to be able to move. You have to be able to move yourself, right? Like, if you can't, again, I could say ain't nobody gonna outwork me because I'm motherfucking working, right? And I could also see who's working at my pace because I could see who's working at my pace. Does that make sense? And if I wasn't working at that pace, I wouldn't know who I could rap with. Does it make sense? And I could know, I wouldn't be hearing or having the conversations with them. Because when you start talking about, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, is that it? If you want to go far, you want to go with a group. So I'm always looking to go far, but I got to make sure I got the stamina myself too. And I got to make sure I got the right motherfuckers in the car with me. I always tell this story. If you've been around me, you might have heard it. You gotta have a level of, I believe, community, because you can get farther. And you got to have strong people, and you got to have people with vision, right? Because if everybody don't have the vision, then what ends up happening is you see Rockefeller was Dame, Biggs, and Jay, right? With no disrespect to Biggs or Dame, right? But Jay was the catalyst, right? You see Beyonce was, Kelly and Michelle, and then the other person, right? Sorry, the other person. I forget her name right now. That's fucked up. Help me. Don't let this go live or viral. I'm sorry. But all of them had careers within the rights, but the thing you seen was the vision. There's gonna always be people who have vision. So what we see as individuals, we end up seeing that one person with vision, and you start to forget that they had a team of people with them, right? Or you see somebody like ASAP Mob, and then you see Rocky come out the pack, right? Like, yo, it's good to move with a group, but there's always going to be a person that has more vision into the story. We all in the room, right? We had this free game. It's excellent. I said, we got a van, we got a bus outside. We're going to drive. No, I'm sorry. We got a bus outside. We're going to travel, right? And every 500 miles, you get X amount of money, right? Everybody gets on a bus. Everybody get paid every X amount of miles. We drive. We going west, right? Because we're traveling, right? So we going west. Half the van is like, this is dope. We get a quarter of the way. Somebody jump off like, fuck that. I'm good. I'm out. You know what I'm saying? We get to Kansas City. Somebody like, man, fuck that. I'm out, right? We get to Utah. A lot more people jump out. They like, fuck that. I'm out. You know what I'm saying? We get to Cali, get to the West Coast, and most of the people going to jump out the van, assumingly, right? But we're traveling. We're not driving, right? The person with the vision didn't realize the bus could turn into a boat, and then we keep going, right? Most people don't have the vision or the creativity to think about how do we keep traveling. They're too short-sighted to understand that it takes some thinking along the way to start to convert the vehicle to continue to travel so you could circle forever, right? What usually happens is the people who got off Kansas City is mad as fuck when they lap Kansas City for the 5th time, right? Because they seen the vision for the person to be there. Man, ain't no way. They go, man, fuck that. I'm gonna do more with this money than they gonna get to LA. I'm gonna be all right. But they didn't realize we was gonna fucking travel for the rest of our lives. Does that make sense? That's vision. Does that make sense? Questions?
First thing, I don't know how you left LeBron off of that Mount Rushmore, but you know.
MJ's there. No, but it's a later debate. It's a later
That was my
debate
guy,
for
man.
another day. Debate for another day.
Second thing is kind of piggybacks off of what you just said as far as bringing community with you on that journey. The way I kind of interpreted that question was not just how you just seen it, but also directing your business to our community. For example, like my first thought process when starting my business was, I'm gonna get all the high-end Black-owned businesses and put them on this platform because I seen it as a service. But as I did my, due diligence, there's not too many of us in that space.
Yes.
And you just mentioned the $500 shoes.
Yep.
And my son goes to North Atlanta. Those kids walking around with Balenciagas. I'm just like, how is that even?
You don't look like you're old enough to have a son that does that, but
Oh yeah, my son, I'm 38, man. But my question to you is, how do we give that knowledge of having a boutique, number one, is attainable, yes, but having a boutique that sells high-end brands like that is also attainable. And that's a way that we can keep that money within our community. Like you go back to, spoke about Jewish community, even Asian community, and how they keep it together is because, how I see it is because they, number one, they're pushing each other to build these bigger things that bring in bigger dollars. So how can we do the same? And you not being the only one at the party, so to speak, like you mentioned.
man, bro, listen, we're doing it. You watching us do it. Like the reason I'm so committed to my time and giving it away is because, yo, bro, I swear to God, I'm giving y'all I got. I'm giving y'all every bright idea I got. And listen, when people ask me all the time, somebody say, well, why you want to do this? I want to get in a room, and that's why I like what Jay does. But I would be like, and he does an incredible job. But when you get capital, you can change capital. Does that make sense? I live another thing that I believe in. You heard one of my stories. The other thing I believe in is, in order to break the rules, first be the best at them. Does that make sense? Because now, if I can come in your system and master your system, now once you respect me in your system, I can start to change it, right? So my first goal was to get really good at this shit, right? The second thing you do is you start to change the rules. After that, you can start bringing people along. But the catch is you got to be in a room with the right people to bring them along. Does that make sense? Or you think when I start to see some of the same people that like, yo, I'm a creature of habit. Once I know what you stand on and what you stand for, I can fuck with you or not. I'm gonna give you a shot. It's yours to take, right? Everything else is up to you. I'm not actually giving you a shot. I'm just giving you the information for you to take the shot that's already yours. So I'm correcting myself, right? But what you do with that opportunity is up to you, right? But what I hope everyone does with the opportunity is begin to invest in it because you saying it now, like bet, you started your platform, just gave you the advice. I hope I see you back next month. And it was like, yo, what's your name again? DeJuan was in man year. He sat here with his platform and posted pictures up and sold the shit out the store and was shipping and forced us to ship it. And he sat there and bought it and like, yo, bro, you want to know how I got all of our Japanese accounts? Well, fuck, I hired a translator to write an email in Japanese and told them, they like, what the fuck? How's this dude writing an email in Japanese? You know what I told him? I'll be there the next day. Like, what the fuck? So I done something that was extraordinary. Like, yo, dude from like, yo, what do you think I knew how to speak Japanese? Had no fucking clue, right? Still ain't that good at it, but I knew what I wanted. Does that make sense? And I knew they had what I needed, and I knew I needed to get there. Does that make sense? So when I talk about like, yo, there was this thing I sent to a lot of people on Instagram last night. Life doesn't get easier. I think it was, what's her name? From Duke. I'll remember her name later. Life doesn't get easier. It's just about when things are being more comfortable when things are harder. Does that make sense? This shit ain't gonna never get easy. There's never gonna be ask anybody on our team. I used to say it to Cav all the time, like, yeah, and then when we get this, it's gonna be sweet. And he just started laughing at me, like, bro, you'll never, if it ever got sweet, I would leave. Right? It's never gonna be sweet, right? That's the hustle. The hustle is, I could bet what the Will Smith say, he'll die on a treadmill, meaning that people ain't got the will and endurance to do what it takes, right? So when I say I'm gonna outwork you, it's me saying like, yo, I could do this shit all night, no sleep, no nothing. But again, my pain pushes me. Does that make sense? The chip on my shoulder is so fucking big, and the fuck you that I want to give the world for fucking us or people who come from where I come from, that shit lives in me so deep. I don't give a fuck, right? So it ain't about, it's not about things for the sake of things. It's about building up to a point to break it. Does that make sense? So for me, success looks like redefining the system that we live in. And you can't redefine the system until you break into it. Does that make sense? I can't just sit out from the outside and throw stones and hope they're gonna come out and say something to me, right? I gotta make them respect me and let me in. And once they respect me and let me in, that's when the change starts to happen. And that's when I can start inviting others that are like me in the room as well. Does that make sense? Carol Lawson, yes. Yes, it was Carol Lawson. She done a speech at Duke. Shit is incredible. I'll put it on my stories tonight. I don't know why I didn't put it on the last night. She was incredible.
Just to like piggyback off his question, I think part of that too is like being a parent in this age, telling your child from a young age that they can do anything, like not giving them, just not conforming to society's I guess ideals. Like when I was growing up, it was doctor, play a sport, lawyer, not I'm selling shoes or I'm a retailer. So giving your kid the opportunity to know there's other opportunities out there, especially in the society we live in right now, where you see people making money off anything, selling candles. Somebody that posted one TikTok video, now they're making $1 million off TikTok, like just letting them know it's different options other than, the regular stuff.
Yeah, well, I agree completely. And the other thing, well, first, let me go back. Dream. Don't ever like, yo, don't ever let somebody kill your hope or your dream. And then the other thing is the fast money is not always the best money. Does that make sense? Like, and at times, if money comes fast, hold it. Does it make sense? Like when money is blowing through the door, you got to slow down and catch yourself because some people like to believe that it's going to keep coming at that pace. And when it stops, it usually comes to a fast stop. And because you've spun so much, you don't get a chance to really figure out, right? You see a lot of people go like this and they come back, right? But with this has just been my rules. The more velocity, the more you got to be careful, right? Always reinvest, but when it's coming so fast, you got to almost take a second to, right? When it comes more methodically, you understand how it's coming a little more, right? And I say that to the TikTok thing because what I see a lot of is everybody want to go viral and do anything for followers and do anything for likes, and that shit is a fucking thirst trap, right? Because what's happening is you selling your soul piece by piece. And some people saying like, oh, well, it's marketing and it's money. Like, nah, you getting paid pennies on a dollar. Actually, you getting paid pieces of a penny, right? For engagement. Now, if you can do it and win, right? And if you can hit, but be careful to look at all the options and also look at the amount of competition that there is on the platform because the barriers to open an account is email address, name you put, last name you put, and unique username. Does that make sense? So that means the barriers to entry is low. Can it happen for you? I'm not dream killing. Absolutely, yes, it can happen. But again, you said it earlier. It was just the TikTok is the new hooper of this generation. Being a TikToker is like being a hooper now, or being a TikToker is like being a rapper, right? So I think there's a balance to making sure that we're building substantive long-term opportunities. Does that make sense? Brother Mark?
I think this is pretty much it. Do you want to take one last one or?
No, I'll take one last one. I gotta
right.
get Trey. Trey got a draft to do tonight, and he got a vocabulary test. So I gotta go be study dad after this.
I was gonna say, so we got one last question from Darnell. How does it make you feel that you have such an impact on people with the sugar and the veggies, aka like the weight of the impact that you have and the opportunity with sugar and the veggies?
I appreciate the gesture, and I gotta get better at accepting compliments. But respectfully, I still think the opportunity is bigger than our current position. Like we ain't moving far enough and fast enough. So I know it's crazy for people to say that because on the other side of it, there's somebody in the company right now saying that we getting too much, and why James and why the Whitaker Group and why Ama Minier or why whatever, right? But like, yo, I would say I got 40 million reasons in America, and then we start counting outside of the country, then I got a whole bunch more. So like, yo, it ain't just about us. I think somebody asked a question earlier. Would you rather go by yourself or go with everybody else? Just speaking for the United States, we got 40 million more people to take with us. So we got a long way to go. And that, everybody, is a session. I like to thank everybody for taking the time. Again, we're doing FAMU. No, we're doing TCU on Monday in Houston. And then we do FAMU next week, the week after next. And then we'll be back in space probably towards the end of the month in, what the fuck month is this? October. My fault, I'm losing the time. But the goal is we're gonna start mixing up sessions and just getting out in the streets and trying to just touch as many people as we can to get in and do the work in a meaningful way. Anything that I could do to help any of y'all personally, collectively, y'all know how to get at me. I'm always here for this and for anything else, any events that y'all be social in what we do as a community platform is built for y'all. So if there's anything that you think that you want to do in any of our spaces, please hit up Mark or George or anybody on our team or Raven on a nonprofit side for the Whitaker Project. We're here to build with y'all. We're here for y'all. And I appreciate y'all taking the time. Thank you.